celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Friday, January 24th, 2020. And here are some of today's trends in the news on the market front. Mixed over there in Asia, up in Europe, down in the States. Gold, whoop, back over that $1,570 mark. Oil's down. And Bitcoin, bleep, kind of flat, but still over that 8,000 mark. Dow drops 170 points to end week as coronavirus fears grow. Goodbye, Rosie, Queen of Corona. Oh, no, not that Corona. Stocks fell on Friday after the second U.S. case of the deadly coronavirus was confirmed, stoking concerns over the sickness impact on the global economy. 2 people out of 26 million. Oh, they found one in Europe too. Yeah, they got about 300 and something million too. But China's the big one. And shares of United Airlines and American both fell more than 5%. Las Vegas Sands and Wynn Resorts also dropped more than 3% because people aren't going to fly anymore. They're afraid of goodbye, Rosie, Queen of Corona virus. But stocks had been on a record-setting tear since last year. The S&P 500 rising more than 28% in 2019 and more than 2% since the start of this year. So let's just say this coronavirus continues and these markets go down. Hey, where are interest rates going to go? Whoa, 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 low, low, low. And again, don't know where it's going, but the numbers aren't that big right now. Oil drops the most since July on fears of coronavirus will hit growth. Whew, and they really took a hit today. Brent crude was down under that $60 a barrel mark. But it's bigger than this. It's been going down even despite the Mideast tensions. A slowdown in China's economy would impact demand because China is the world's largest crude oil importer, importing over 10 million barrels a day. So what's going to happen when they get rid of that petrodollar? Because that's going to happen sooner rather than later. Not this year, not next year, but over the years. And when the petrodollar goes, so too will the dollar. Because China is not going to pay for it in dollars. They're going to be paying for it in their currency, the yuan. What else do we have here? More than 33 million people are now under travel restrictions in China, which could impact jet fuel demand because Chinese New Year, which starts tomorrow, is the world's largest annual human migration. And over there in Libya, production slowed as rebels blocked exports. Who are the rebels? Libya, what happened over there? Now, we won't talk about how the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner Barack Obama, Samantha Power, Susan Rice, and Hillary Clinton, along with Sarkozy of France and No Cojones Cameron, destroyed the prosperous nations in North Africa. People had free healthcare, free education, no interest rates when they borrowed money. It was one of the most advanced places around. Destroyed by murderers. But anyway, gold jumped to more than a 2-week high on Friday because of goodbye, Rosie, Queen of Coronavirus, dented risk demand, and prompted a flight to safe haven assets. You know, if this thing is real, as I keep saying, kiss that climate change stuff goodbye. We're going to be dead before that. I mean, they poison us in so many different ways. In our water, in the air, in our food. But anyway, the other important point about this is I always say, I'm not a futurist. Nobody could predict the future. There are too many wild cards. And the coronavirus is just another one of those. You never know what's going to happen. And again, over here in the States, we got one of the wildest of wild cards, and that's the Trump card. So, the World Health Organization designated the coronavirus outbreak an emergency for China, but not the rest of the world currently. And what else do we have? You know what the major stories are in the States over here? The impeachment trial. That's right, the impeachment trial. This is the major story on the Cartoon News Network. Oh, people call it CNN. This is the whole headline across the page. The impeachment trial of Donald J. Trump. Schiff accuses Trump of promoting Russian propaganda. The president embraces, quote, kooky, crazy conspiracy theories instead of siding with U.S. intelligence, the Democratic House manager says. House manager of what? A manager of a bunch of low-life craps in both parties. Who can look up to these stupid morons? Kooky, crazy conspiracies? Look how they teach us to hate the Russians. And that's why you subscribe to the Trends Journal. You get history before it happens. They're not reporting on the things that we're going to report on and do report on and write in the Trends Journal. Accuses Trump of promoting Russian propaganda instead of siding with U.S. intelligence. Oh, yeah, like the U.S. intelligence that said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. That intelligence? Schiff intelligence? Intelligence? Oh, the ones that gave us the Gulf of Tonkin War. Or Vietnam War and the lie based on Gulf of Tonkin incident that never happened. That intelligence? What intelligence? Intelligence agency is an oxymoron for the word intelligence, and you only have to be a moron to believe it, and millions and hundreds of millions of morons believe this. There was not one shred of evidence that they hacked into anything. Nothing. But, hey, go Schiff yourself. Lagarde kicks off ECB policy review battle. Central bank holds rates as new president pledges scrutiny of strategy. The European Central Bank will examine whether it should alter the $200 billion corporate bond buying holdings to take account of climate change. Yeah. This climate change, again, we're going to be dead before that because the first shots of World War III have been fired. We got lunatics running the asylum. Anyway, banksters raise pressure over negative rates. European bank executives have launched a fresh lobbying push to convince policymakers of the dangers of long-term negative interest rates, warning they will hurt savers and pensioners and fuel price bubbles in riskier assets. They want interest rates to go higher so they can make more money. And again, they are right. This has fueled bubbles, and it's going to be fueling a big one. A lot more information here that you're going to get in your Trends Journal on Tuesday. It's a weekly, as you know. Much more information we'll be writing about. Downbeat IMF outlook diverts Davos focus on climate goals. This climate goal is a bunch of BS. Again, that's not what they're concerned. They're concerned with making more money. Global forecast reined in. Economic Forum overshadowed. The IMF has trimmed its forecasts for global economic growth this year. And you know what they're calling the global economic growth this year in the USSA? Well, the IMF forecast that the Chinese and American economies will slow in 2000. They expect U.S. to grow 2% in 2020. 2%, that's what it was under Obama. But even though the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, says that things are slowing down, Trump was over there in Davos, and he said, headline here, Trump touts an American boom at Economic Forum. Quote, the American dream is back, bigger, better, and stronger than ever, Mr. Trump said. No one is benefiting more than the American middle class. You know what that is.
Bullshit.
Trump shit. F you. All of your tax cuts, according to the Tax Policy Center, 82% went to the 1%, of which you is. The middle class got that, man. Yeah. Anyway, that's Trump. Again, I'm a political atheist. They're all disgusting to me. Anybody that's been listening to me over the years knows that. Call them all out. Surprise rate cuts spotlight broader rethink on shoring up European market growth. Surprise interest rate cuts in Malaysia and South Africa have raised the prospect of further monetary policy easing across emerging markets as policymakers aim to shore up faltering economic growth. They're all lowering these interest rates down to where they can go. Central banks in 58 developing countries cut interest rates last year. Imagine. 58. It's big trouble. The greatest depression is going to hit in 2021, minus wild cards like the coronavirus or something else, like a World War III. Then everything crashes. Wells Fargo, ex-CEO banned for life. A regulator barred former Wells Fargo and Company chief executive John Stumpf from the banking industry and fined him $17.5 million over the firm's fake accounts scandal. Fined him, banned him. How come he doesn't go to jail? We go to jail for the minor little things. Hey, where are all you tough cops? How come you're not taking this guy and throwing him in jail? Because it's just us that J-U-S-T-U-S, not J-U-S-T-I-C-E. They only go after us, the little people of Slavelandia. Jamie Dimon gets $31.5 million pay despite bank's criminal charges. Isn't that nice, huh? This is from Pam Martin. She does a great job. Yesterday, Transparency International released its annual Corruption Perception Index. The CPI ranks 180 countries and territories by their perceived levels of government corruption. The most corrupt countries rank lower on the scale, while a score of 100 represents the least corrupt. This year, the United States ranked below Uruguay with a score of 69. Isn't that great? This comes at a time when Americans, quote, trust in government is at a historic low of 17%, according to the Pew Research Center. But yet, even though the people don't believe in the government, they take sides. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I like Trump. I hate Trump. I love Obama. I hate Obama. That's how dumb the people are. They take sides of who the gang leader is. Great piece of information here. You get more in your Trends Journal. What else do we have? Slowing China faces costly bank cleanup. Big story here. In recent months, Beijing has come to the aid of at least 6 regional lenders, including one rescue that marked the first time national authorities publicly seized control of a bank since the 1990s. And what they're saying is that it's a lot worse than what they're reporting. So again, now we have this coronavirus. China's not growing as fast as they'd like it to. The wild cards could really go wild here. Beijing supports Shenzhen viewed as shot across the bow to Hong Kong. So Shenzhen is 15 minutes by train to Hong Kong. And what they're saying now is they're going to be trying to make this the new financial hub. So they just include Hong Kong into it, and Hong Kong is no longer the big financial hub for Asia. So that may be a strategy that China's taking. Very important. Again, the government is going to win, unfortunately, and the people are going to lose. And again, what's not reported, and we've been reporting in the Trends Journal, the wage discrepancies, the rich and the poor in Hong Kong are among the worst in the world. The few have mostly everything, and most of the people have nothing. And that's why you're seeing more and more protests, not only in China, but around the world. It's the New World Disorder. The rich got it all, the rest got nothing. Investors cool on Brooklyn real estate. The dollar volume of commercial property sales fell by 30% last year. I mentioned this, you go into New York City, you see for rent signs all over the place. The luxury markets, this market, there's a global slowdown, but I don't see the crash coming again, minus a wild card, until 2021, because they're going to lower interest rates and it's going to boost up the economy again temporarily. Here's a big story that's been making a lot of news, whether it's in Europe or China and around the world. Falling birth rate creates economic time bomb for Beijing. Fewer than 1 in 4 women of childbearing age in Shanghai is willing to have a second baby, exposing another threat to a Chinese economy that is already growing at its slowest pace in 29 years. All right. I mentioned that the greatest depression is going to be worse than the Great Depression, because when the Great Depression was here, we only had 2 billion people on the planet. That's 90 years ago. We added 5.7 billion people in 90 years. Okay, so from the beginning of time to 1930, 2 billion people. From 1930 to 2020, 7.7 billion. What are people supposed to keep having more and more people? So when the economies go down, you don't have enough jobs for the people. You don't have enough jobs for them now. That's why you have all this migration and refugee problems. Besides, of course, being bombed to death and people wanting to leave their homelands. But that's taken out of the news. So this is a big issue, and it doesn't make sense to me. Things slow down. You have a readjustment in life. But no, have more kids, according to them. Lebanon unveils new coalition. We wrote about this in the Trends Journal. I'm updating it because the protests are continuing. They're continuing again in Iraq. They're continuing around the world. Again, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they're losing it. And what else do we have here? Well, right now in France, they're on hold. It looks like Macron is in the driver's seat, one of the big unions, as we've been writing about, as they went back to work, the transport union, but the other unions are striking. We'll see what happens this weekend. And for the young, the office is a lonelier place. More than 80% of employed members of Generation Z, many of whom are just entering the workforce, and 69% of employed millennials are lonely, according to a survey. You keep reading on and on about how lonely people are. For many younger workers, a day at the office comes with a sense of emptiness and the need to hide their true selves. They find their jobs less meaningful and feel more friction. Communication styles might be feeding younger generations' sense of isolation. They tend to shun phone calls and in-person conversations, the kinds of interactions that can lead to real connections, in favor of email and text messages. And then there's another story. Schools try to calm nerves while removing devices. How hard it is in schools, in public, right on through. Public schools, elementary schools, all the way through to graduate schools, for people not to be on their phones. And how difficult it is for the people to withdraw from them. This is, as I said, high-tech heroin. It's addictive. And I believe we are now in the early stages of the new Black Plague, brought to you by radio frequency radiation, all the other dangers of high tech from 5G to cell phones, and what it's doing to people emotionally, spiritually, and physically. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.